Hello, everybody, and welcome back for another League podcast. I am your host, Patrick Skarsgård Scarborough, and I have with me today the Ivern team. We usually do these for reworks, but this time we have a new champion, Ivern the Green Father. We'll run it down. We have Blake Smith, his designer, also known as Squad 5. Blake, how you doing?
Pretty good.
Hey, well, I actually believe him, so that's good. we have concept artist and general Ivern model. I actually believe you're what it was based off of, Chris Campbell.
Yep. Hello.
And unfortunately returning from our wildly unsuccessful Aurelian Soul podcast, just the worst person. Yeah. He's sitting right next to me. I can't stand it. Matt Dunn, writer for Ivern, writer for Riot Games, also known as FauxSchizzle.
Can I just say that you guys really covered a lot of genres of music with that intro?
Yeah,
it's like Lord of the Rings and then club music.
Yeah,
it's
no. That's the Earth thing.
Yeah,
are you? All right. I'm just gonna assume Matt's under a rock somehow. All right. So look, speaking of rocks, trees, nature, the whole shebang. There you go.
This guy does
Ivern.
This before?
And I gotta say, Ivern, Chris, I kind of want you to start us off and tell me a little bit about how Ivern got started, as kind of the twinkle in your eye, because I even mentioned when I saw you the other day, I feel like when you originally were working on some concepts of characters like Bard, I think you went to a really good but really weird place. And all of your concepts were like, what if this dude was just one instrument, his whole body was like a horn, right? And you had like, what if this guy was just a mask with feet? Like just a bunch of really wild stuff. So tell me, so where did Ivern crawl out of?
Well, our next champion is actually just a mask with feet.
Fuck.
So...
All right, we spoiled. Well, now everyone knows.
Thank you. Actually, for Ivern, when we started development, we actually wanted to make a druidic character. And we've had a lot of interest in that from a number of artists in different places, for a long time, both on Champion and from outside of that too. So when we started working on Ivern, we actually had like this really great spread of a bunch of different types of druids and things that we wanted to look at. And we talked through them to decide if that's what we wanted to make. Over time, though, like from talking to like Matt and the other creative guys, like we started to kind of develop a new vision for it. And really the one thing that, I'll hang my hat on that I wanted early on was we did not have this like super kind of like exaggerated silhouette in the game. Somebody who was super tall and lanky and basically like a ball on stilts kind of thing. Like,
yeah.
and when we start developing champions, one of the things we have to go do first is make sure that we have a silhouette that's unique. We have 130 champs, or so in the game. So finding that unique shape is super, super important. After that, though, once we sort of like started tinkering around with things like that and found that silhouette was gonna work in some fashion, why not make that silhouette move around and be crazy and goofy and all that good stuff? So
that's you bring up something I think that's really important. By the way, can we just have you back to talk about champs you didn't even work on? I feel like I'm being seduced by the Chris Campbell radio voice here, but I'm like, oh god, yeah, just tell me about Rise. Tell me about the next Rise rework.
Right,
let's go for it. No, but you hit on something I think that's actually pretty important that a lot of people don't think about, which is silhouette, right? I remember many moons ago we had this problem where we were like, okay, let's look at Quinn, and then let's look at Fiora, and then let's look at like another female character at the time. And it was like, if you turn off the lights and you just put their in-game models next to each other, it's actually difficult to find out. It's like, which one are they? And so that's where you get into the exaggerated poses where like Akali is just like a human female with double comma things, but she like crouches on the ground and gets all exaggerated and stuff like that. But I want you guys to kind of hop in here and tell me more about this druid theme, because what we have like Soraka, kinda, and she's like a space goat healer thing, and then we have like Maokai, who's a tree, but he's definitely not like, he doesn't seem like a happy nature guy.
No.
Yeah. So when things started spinning around druid, how were you guys feeling about it?
Do you want to start with the
we spent a good chunk of time thinking about what kinds of druid fantasies we could go with. I remember one pitch that was I think it was considered very toxic. Ooh. Where it was like the negative kind of druid where he's like the John Constantine type, where he's helping the ADC kind of power up, and then would actually backstab his own teammate and take all their power for himself.
Wait, what the hell?
Yeah, it'd
That's
be
a
really
druid
bad.
fantasy?
Yeah, because
See, maybe I just don't know anything about druids. I thought druids were all like.
it might have been a joke pitch, but
Okay,
it was us trying to figure out like it's
Matt's
like
actually going off the script here.
When-
Nobody has any idea what he's talking
Oh
about.
God! Cut the tape.
it's Aurelian Soul all over again. Oh no.
Yeah, great.
No, but like,
It was
yeah.
the druid has always been on this kind of arc of self-sacrifice, right? Like I'm always going to give of myself of that, and we were, I think, probably trying too hard at that moment to flip
Right.
it and invert it, and it was wisely shot down by everybody in the room except for me, who was kind of like, oh, I wanted to make a bastard, but
Yeah, I want to stab my carry in the back at the last moment.
And then it was kind of we Jimmy, who was also working on the champion early, was he did this really funny voice, and after seeing some of Chris's initial sketches, Jimmy just goes, yeah, I just kind of want to make a friend of the forest, and
I can believe that. I can believe that's exactly how it went.
and then once he said
there's not
that,
a
we
video
were
for
like,
that.
okay, we gotta make that guy.
yeah. Well, this one seems a little interesting too, and Blake, I want to get your thoughts on this because. It seems like for me, for as long as I've known about Ivern, it was friend of the forest or like friendly woodland man, right? Or like in some form, right? So this is interesting to me because from the kind of beginning of talking about Ivern, at least as far as I've been aware from him, he's always been super friendly. He's always been, a little goofy. Whereas I think characters like Kled, when we were talking about him on the last podcast, there was like, is Kled going to be crazy? Is he going to be mean? Is he going to be old? Like there was actually quite a few more variations on where the character might go. So once you feel maybe a little locked into like friendly druid guy, Blake, how do you make a character that doesn't just like check the box on what you would expect out of a druid, right?
Yeah, I mean, after you get past the point where we explore the background things, and like I think there were some things where it was like mysterious druid was kind of interesting. Like it doesn't talk to people. These kind of
Dark
cool,
and mysterious past.
There's some cool things, not necessarily evil, some more towards that anyway. But we, at least from a gameplay perspective, when we got to the point where he was a friendly character and that he was sort of supposed to be nonviolent, we were exploring this pacifist angle, which I think we've talked about a few times in the past. But that was specifically started out that a druid who has sort of reverence for all life, and that is like. Again, Ivern maintains a lot of this, and that he's not the nature will protect and we will kill humans who come in. Like he doesn't have that point of view, but the character who has reverence for all life will not hurt any of it.
Yeah,
and so sees progressions of say like good and evil as just kind of natural things. I know you were talking about like a balance of the sort of world type ideas of this character's philosophy, and so we were going into a direction where it was pure pacifist. Like Ivern didn't even deal damage.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, he could not damage anyone in the game, and instead what he would do was facilitate his allies in dealing damage for him instead.
Right.
And so the funny thing is you could think about the weird sort of
He wasn't a pacifist, he was a passive aggressivist.
Yeah, like,
there's a weird little hypocrisy a little in
it's
that.
very weird to be like, all right, I'm not going to kill them.
But you
are going to kill them. Right? It's like, Ivern, what? It's like, be nice to all the wolves. Slaughter their 80 carry. You're like, what?
Something dark.
That said,
side.
actually, real quick, just to crystallize it, that does mean there is a cool potential for a pacifist character out there that controls his allies.
Oh, so the pacifist character's not off the board. So I mean, if you're upset that that's gone away, it's not gone.
Someone's on their morning commute right now, like, damn it!
Shit.
That was me. I don't. Shit.
Yeah. But he does maintain a lot of like that aspect of helping his allies kill. That's where he is a support, So he didn't go too far away from that, but. The idea basically came around, okay, so he's this pacifist, he's a druid who cares about nature, right? We wanted to maintain that element specifically, and so that's where we get to the jungle clear that's sort of unique for him, where he's not actually killing the jungle monsters, which, one, gets us a huge dramatic win of, he's not actually killing the monsters.
Yeah, he's like kind of just waving them off, hanging out.
And two, gets us an interesting gameplay position that we can put him in, which is a support classed character in the jungle position. And so normally they have all their, supports have all their limitations in terms of damage and what they can do, but we basically get around it with this.
Yeah,
So-
well, you bring up support jungler, and I think that's interesting because we've often heard support jungler, as like this faux class that people like to think of, where they're like, Nunu's a support jungler, and it's like,
Right.
what does he do that's supportive? Well, he eats the shit out of the enemy jungle and
He
then
blood boils.
and then hits him a bunch, and they don't get to play the game. I was like, okay, well, that doesn't. All right, but I mean, I guess it's a support relative to like a Master Yi, but
Right.
but some of these characters that people have felt are support junglers, I think, don't really live up to what you may expect out of that theme.
Right. I mean, we wouldn't specifically classify them as a support jungler and say that they fulfill like that niche.
Right. Yeah.
For players.
I think it's more like, and maybe you guys help me out. I'm not exactly familiar with what you play, but it feels like if you enjoy playing support the role in other games, if you like being a healer, if you like being kind of an enchanter, Ivern is like right up your alley.
Yeah.
Even if it does put you in a different lane than maybe you're used to.
Sure.
He's really relaxing to play. I found him just like in the play tests that I did, just calming. Like just
Yeah.
walking around and just gonna leave a little by myself here and clear that camp right there and come back over. He feels very much like the Bob Ross of League of Legends.
Yeah. The happy
And
little
yeah,
trees.
he's very happy. Like I don't know. I didn't like jungling until I actually played Ivern, and then I was like, I get it.
Gotcha.
I got
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my
And
lord.
then that walk, that strut that he's got.
the
that,
super
wow.
like I think people, if they have seen him already, when you were talking about Silhouette, Chris, they have to be thinking about the lanky walk, just the sliding on up into every situation. He's just he's so weird. Like, is he actually taller than the other characters, or does it just feel that way?
I think like
Because our model size is usually like pretty reined in.
yeah, I think he could be the tallest character.
Maybe
at the moment.
maybe we were just like, give
Yeah.
this guy a higher coefficient than everyone else.
He might be the tallest guy at the moment.
Yeah,
He
he's taller than Jhin.
definitely has some interesting numbers for his bounding box which is
Oh, yeah.
his size, as you
I think,
say.
like thematically speaking, he's not actually the size of a tree. He would be like taller than a normal person. I mean, he maybe even 7 or 8 feet tall, but
Yeah.
not giant tree man like an Ent.
Yeah,
He's not BFG.
But in game, like he might be
he's-
the biggest dude.
Yeah,
on
he's walking around.
Yeah.
I
that
was kind
stride.
of hoping he
Yep.
did the Attack on Titan thing. He walks over to the Raptors and you just see him peering
Peek
over.
over
the
the
wall.
Oh, that's so creepy.
Just see him. He's like, but then he's like, "How y'all doing?"
Yeah.
You're like, "Oh, we're good." We're hanging out over here.
Future
Looking
skin.
good, guys.
So I want to
Yeah.
Attack on Ivern.
So
just be a naked dude. Yeah, that's good.
So I know the inspiration was druid, but is he an actual druid? I read the story for the first time in my life. I read the story.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. No, I'm kidding.
Yay.
I read all that shit.
I'm honored. I'm really touched.
I'm
This
so
is like,
mad about it.
I'm shocked because I've known you to not be the avid
But
reader.
no,
of story.
it's the Alabama in me that just keeps me from reading. But no, Ivern, because he's like, he used to be a bad dude, right? He was Ivern the Cruel, right? He was, I don't really know what his whole deal was back then, but he went to go find some magic that could stop all the Frozen Watchers or the Frostborn or whomever it really is, and he cuts down the tree, and then he becomes the tree.
Yep.
And so I guess
You pretty much got
and
it.
the thing is especially listening to his VO, I'll gush about the VO here in a bit, but even listening to how he interacts with people, how he interacted with the kind of the hunter in the story and everything, he doesn't seem to know or care if he has kind of an authority. He's just sort of like,
Yeah.
I got a bunch of life powers, and I'm just gonna enjoy the hell out of that, and I'm just gonna I'm gonna make sure everyone else is enjoying it, right? Like the whole what is it? He's got to go officiate a frog election,
Yeah.
right, for King of the Lily
The
Pad.
Donald Grump memes started flowing.
Yeah,
from
Donald
that
Grump.
one.
Yeah. Oof. All right, but
Yeah.
but right. So I guess that's the thing is what is his actual role in Runeterra? Right, because it doesn't, most druids are like, we were appointed by a council of some weird elf creatures and someone stands tall above everything, but he's kind of just rolling around, lank walking into everywhere, just enjoying his life.
I think he kind of just lucked into it, or just kind of sort of rolled with it. Early on, the first character reference I can remember for this guy was the dude from The Big Lebowski. And it's like when you look at him early on and say like, oh, he's the dude. He abides, he chills, he's got a white Russian. Nothing's going to really harsh his day.
Yeah.
except someone peeing on his rug. Because, you know, like...
And even then, he just wants
Yeah.
the rug back.
Exactly.
You know?
It really tied the room together.
I feel
I'm going to
like-
stop quoting
No,
Bill Bowski now.
but
It's
there
gotta
was
end.
room for a scuttle crab tying the room together if you steal it from him. If he was like, "What the hell, man?
Yeah.
Why are you gonna take
True.
my crab?"
It's true.
we had
Missed
pitched-
opportunities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One that I wish we had done was Ivern versus Ivern, if they both clear the same camp, or they would both just go, "Whoa,
Yeah.
you knew what I was thinking."
Yeah.
All right,
good.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I would say that he's, as with any kind of like archetype we try and fill, I think in terms of like traditional straight druid, I don't think that held a lot of appeal to any of us. But what we liked was when you peeled apart the layers of what that archetype is that this reverence, this care, this life magic, and apply it to somebody who maybe didn't deserve it in the beginning, but has kind of learned to kind of deal with it. It became something really interesting. Like, we don't have a lot of characters in our game that are at the end of their arc, that are at the end of their story. They've basically accomplished all the things that they've needed to accomplish to be a complete person. And with Ivern, that just felt right for him. And it felt very kind of druidic, because the last thing a druid really has to do in any of the stories, and I look to the Shannara books, like when they had the druids there, the druid always dies in all of them. You get really attached to the druid, spoiler alert, and they always die.
Yeah, they got to get buried in the earth or like sprout into a tree or mushrooms or whatever,
and so
give back to the land.
I think it was Ryan Vernier, who's the senior writer on Champ on League of Legends, and he was the one who kind of directed me towards like that's what a druid does, right? It's the last thing they do is they're on a path of self-sacrifice, and so it just kind of clicked. He's done. All he has left to do is basically make that final rooting, and he's the God Willow. He will become everything that he took from the world, and he's happy with that. And then most likely, the second he does that, someone's going to come with an axe.
Yeah,
And he'd be like, cool.
Yeah.
It's part of the light, part of the cycle.
I'm good with that.
Yeah.
Chris, when did you feel like, either whether it was these meetings, where we have reviews and we're looking at animations, or, we're looking at gameplay or something, that you felt like the snowball that you had started to push down the hill with Tree Man was really blooming into something that you were like, oh, okay, this is exciting. I'm finally seeing this thing in game that I really want to see.
A lot of times the animations do this with I think a lot of characters, actually. You get a chance to you talk about these characters and you draw them, and it's a static situation, right? You're posing them. You might be doing sketches and things where they're acting and they're going through moments and trying to like communicate who they are, but once animators actually get a hold of it, and you're having these conversations, and they're like, okay, give me a few days on this or whatever, and they'll come back with like a first walk cycle or a first like run cycle or something, and when you see this like lanky goofball dude like gliding down lane for the first time or something, even if he's just like a grayed mass of geo, you start to see the personality, and it passes into a different state of mind, because you're sort of pitching to yourself and to each other, and you're believing that this thing's going to be cool and it's going to be interesting, and then it starts to move, and it has mass,
Then the real smart people come in and make it happen,
totally,
and you're like,
right,
oh
yeah.
my god.
No, and
It's the same thing with gameplay. You don't know if an ability's good until an animator gets a crack at it. And
Yeah.
You're like, actually, this is satisfying.
You're like, never mind, I'm
Yeah.
a genius.
yeah,
It's super cool. Yeah, no, I mean,
And Chris, to his credit, was like one of the first people to really see who this character was. I mean, I remember specifically there was that one time where you were like, hey, Matt, you're kind of busy with Aurelian Soul and wrapping this. Do you mind if I just like kind of push on this angle and push on this angle? And I was like, yeah, man, go for it. It seems like you've got something, and you steered that ship really well. It's going to turn into compliment.
He's like,
yeah.
I probably did, but I don't like you saying that.
no,
Don't be nice to me right now.
Look, he looks so uncomfortable. And he's got a good beard for it, too.
I think it's one of those things where, I remember early on we talked about the potential with just the way that he was built for him to move around and be really unique. And we talked about he was going to be somebody that if he was going to be in the jungle, he should move unique, because we knew that he might be a pacifist. I think at that time we were kind of seeing if that would work. So there were a lot of things about just like making sure that this guy was interesting when he moved around. Yeah. And we had already started poking at the idea of like he was kind of this like, it's a little bit of like Johnny Appleseed, a little bit of like the hermit that's been out in the woods for way too long or whatever.
Yeah.
And he's got all these sort of like eccentricities. And So yeah, I mean, to me, like I go to the references of like the Labyrinth, the characters that are sort of built like Ivern in a lot of ways, and they actually like throw their heads back and forth, and that sort of off kilterness that like a deep woodland off kilter thing, but not evil.
In another context, like tossing your head around would be weird as hell.
Yeah,
but they seem to like just not care on such a level that you're like, oh, I guess this is.
And they're a
what
little
this
creepy.
people do.
They're a little creepy.
Yeah,
for sure. But anyway, so
I think I want to talk a little bit about gameplay though, Blake, because I think this was if correct me if I'm wrong, but Jimmy Stort's beef. No, beat punch beef. That's his summoner name. What he worked on Rek'Sai, he worked on Alawi, and it was funny because I always make this joke where I'm like, oh, every designer has a thing. Everyone knows about August Browning's 3-hit passives, right? Now evolved into the 4-hit passive with Jin. And I was like, Jimmy, you just put a lot of shit on the map. And he's like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. I was like, Rek'Sai is just tunnels everywhere, then tentacles everywhere. Yeah. And he's like, they're gonna make you put brush on the map, aren't you? And he's like, yeah, probably. And then he got really sick. And the way that I remember this, is all of us in the Nordic champion, hall. Like, who's gonna take over Ivern, and Blake busting through the door with a sword, pulled from the head of a now dead giant,
right?
Saying, "I will work on Ivern."
Yes, the Grendel.
I will carry the ring to Mordor.
I feel like it was more of I was just the shepherd out in the fields, and I had one of the warriors come up to me and say, "You have been chosen."
Yeah, I guess actually that is a little bit closer to how it went. So Blake, you have been. You've been working on QA, around design for quite a long time, and then this at the start of this process, right? You've helped out with so many champions. Like what were some of the ones that you've worked on?
I mean, Vi was the first one. Jinx, Braum.
A lot of them.
So I've been here for a while.
Yeah, a lot of favorite characters, and so what was it like being able to take on the first project on your own? Like walk me through that.
Yeah, I mean, from my angle, like I kind of tell the story whenever I can. But when I was first interviewing here back in the day, one of the questions, of course, that always gets asked is, "What do you see yourself doing in 5 years?" And I'm like, I want to make a champion. I'm going to be a champion designer. I'm going to make a champion. And so for me, getting the opportunity to finally do it has been
in like 4 years, right? So
yeah,
you're ahead of schedule.
4 years. Yeah, there you go. But the opportunity to do it has been something that is like, I say from my perspective as someone who is just obsessed with League of Legends, like before I was playing and before I came here, that's what I did. That was my favorite, game to play at the time. And just a fan, basically, is what I would say, who came and on sort of a whim without a lot of hope, I felt like applied to Riot. Finally getting to this point, it was just like a dream come true. It was a realization of something that I wasn't even sure like was even possible. And so for me, it's just like, it's sometimes amazing just to think about it and reflect.
Damn, man, if I'd have known all that, we'd have been nicer, like
way nicer. Dude. We're like, guys, Blake's very sensitive. This is kind of like his dream, y'all. It's like, yeah, but can he hook up the damn spells already? Like, what is, and this is interesting because people who are listening to this, we sometimes talk about how the personalities get injected into things, and it's funny because when you really get to know some of the developers here, some of the characters just make sense, right? Like Daniel is super ambitious and he wants to do stuff that's weird. Right. And so the whole idea of like, what if he doesn't attack? What if he does this thing? Right. Or like, working on the fish tank, right. Working on like, let me just eat characters and walk around with them in my belly. Right. You're like, that's a Daniel thing. Right. He's super weird like that. And August is always trying to solve some kind of puzzle. Right. He's like, what's like the craziest thing I can get someone to do? And it's like, can I get them to both know where they're going to be in a couple seconds and also where they were a couple seconds ago, right? And I'm going to lightly plug Jeevan, who's working on the next characters. When you hear from us again, you'll know what that's all about. Jeevan goes into everything with something to prove. He's got like a true statement about the game, and he's going to go break it in half, right? He's like, everyone else thinks this thing is true. I don't think this thing is true. I'm going to make a character that forces it down. But Blake, I feel like that same kind of the tone that you just brought, to that story, I think really is reflected in Ivern, and so tell me about when you felt like your kit was working, because I remember a couple months ago we sat down together and I was like, hey, just show me the guy, and you're like, oh, here's this ability, here's this ability. But when did it feel like it clicked to you and you were like, okay, this is a functional champion in League of Legends and not just a hot mess of abilities?
Yeah, I mean, from my end, we actually were having discussions like quite often about what this character was. He was kind of shifting a little bit, and based on just my sensibilities that I was bringing, changes to the abilities and things like that, since we didn't really have any before. But after we had kind of discussed what Ivern would feel like potentially as we were kind of just going through, and I kind of started talking about, this Fey creatures in, say, like D&D, who will trick you and mess with you, but they're not trying to hurt you, and they're your friend. And, imagining the guardian in the forest who is sort of, you're trying to pursue, but he's just like he's dipping out of your sight. You can't see what he's doing. He's tricking you. And all of a sudden you end up at the beginning of the forest again, and you don't know what the hell is going on. And playing through his kit and finally getting that sense of in the jungle where I actually felt like that statement that we were making about what this guy thematically could feel like as you were playing him felt like it rang true, was the point where I knew that I had hit on something that was going to be really fun. And so going through the jungle, right, trying to counter jungle somebody, and they come up to attack me. I throw the root out and I start running away. They break out of that. They keep on chasing. I come around the corner. I throw a brush down, and then I walk through it, keep going the other way, and I see them go through and go the wrong direction. And I go, this is amazing. Yeah, I love this.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's the kind of point where I felt like at least the early game and sort of the jungling pattern felt like it was clicking for me. And the other parts were more of how the abilities sort of line together in the pattern sense. And that was like, oh, okay, what are you doing when you're casting these spells? Like, what are you thinking that you're going to do next? And so once we felt like we had down what it was that, what you wanted to do for an ally, that was when it felt like the character was coming together for the more late game stages, which is, helping melee characters mostly get in or appealing for the AD carry, things like that.
Are you sure it wasn't when Warren did the double point shield thing?
Oh, God, that was
for me,
amazing.
that's when I was like, oh, we have a kit.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I don't know. For me, it was later. It was when Ivern high-fived Daisy when she came out. I was like, oh, get him.
Yeah.
Get him.
That's the one. Yeah. I want to talk about her in just a second because I absolutely love Daisy. Daisy is my favorite thing in League of Legends right now. And she's not even in the game. But no, I think what you have, you kind of hit on something that I'm not really sure what to call it, but I feel like there is a point in a champion when you play them, and that, as developers, as designers and everything, it's important to lead people to this moment. Mm-hmm. But if they arrive at that moment and they succeed in that moment, they really understand your character. Mm-hmm. And I think, and this is a lot on you guys too for helping engineer that kind of character. But I'll give some examples. And I play a lot of Illaoi, and I think, Illaoi is, she throws tentacles around, right? She talks a lot about her god, but there is a moment when you are being ganked or there's an overwhelming force coming at you, right? And your only out is to press your ultimate and just hope that it's going to work. Mm-hmm. And then the next thing you know, you're like standing on top of a bunch of bodies and you're super low, but you're like, wow, okay, that was awesome, right? Yeah. It was like, oh, I actually had to commit and believe the same way that she believes in her faith that it's going to work out, and it does, right? Yeah. And I think most recently for Kled, this was like when you are at almost no health and you charge back into the fight and you overcome them by remounting, right? Because it's so unintuitive for us to be like, oh, you already died, you're kind of dead, go kill them to get your extra life back, so to speak, right? And it's so weird, and when it does, you're like, I understand this crazy little asshole, right? Like, I'm super into this guy. And Ivern, for me, I think what you just hit on, that's like, I can't wait to have that moment where I juke someone because they were tricked or they were confused or they couldn't understand what I was trying to do. And I don't know, I think that's super powerful. But But now I want you to tell me about Daisy. Now clear everything off the table. We only got like 7 to 10 minutes left here. Talk to me about Daisy.
Are you going to me? Okay.
Somebody.
No,
I'll start out because Daisy. So
Get it in there.
Daisy originally came about from the gameplay side. Although, to be fair, we'd been wanting to potentially explore summoning as a druid fantasy type, which had been pushed for.
Yeah.
I
You're
originally
either gonna
was thinking
transform or you're gonna summon.
Right. So
Yeah.
I was originally going away from that direction because I was afraid of pet controls in the game. Didn't think that we could
Blake
really
hates
make
fun.
it work. I also
Yeah.
hate fun.
Yeah.
That was one of the questions that was asked me. I was getting interviewed. But anyway, so
We should
Right
throw
man
in
for the
there,
job.
Yeah.
There was a version of the kit where he just did transform into a tree.
He
It
did
was
do that.
not
That is
fun.
true.
That was also not
Unfortunately,
very
that
fun.
wasn't fun. Yeah.
just stand there.
But it wasn't your kind of not fun, and so we had
Yeah,
to
it wasn't the right kind of not fun. It was just deeply not fun. Anyway,
Rooted and not fun. if you
rooted
will.
in not funness.
You can just leave.
No,
Yeah.
I'm okay with
Leaf.
that one.
You
It's
can
all
just
right.
leave.
Yeah.
That- you
Leaf,
missed.
yeah.
You missed why.
That was I said it with the emphasis. All right, whatever.
Anyway,
Sorry.
okay, so
Blake time.
let me go back around. So we initially were trying out some ultimates where he turned into the tree to kind of get more with the story and the thematic of it, and went away from that for various reasons. But I started trying to go in a direction that what is this support? If he is a support, what does he bring that is special? Since he is not in the bottom lane always, he can be there. And the thought was, okay, he can support different types of characters in the game. So started trying out some ultimates that were focused around supporting bruiser type characters because, his Q and his E are naturally very good with them. And the problem that we ran into was that buffing up another character to make them really strong and godlike and do cool things was strong. It was powerful. It was a good reason to take him into the game. But for Ivern, it didn't feel exciting because he wasn't the guy who got to do it. And so spun around that for a little bit, and then eventually just kind of came to the conclusion, well, if we want him to be a bruiser support and to have a bruiser buddy, why not just let him make his own bruiser buddy?
Yeah.
And so let his kit work with that, and he creates his own bruiser to go in and fight for him. And Daisy kind of just fills that niche. She can go in, she's tanky, she gets up in front for him, she throws out CC, and so that's kind of the place where it came down to, and it naturally just slotted into his pattern very well because you do the same things that you would normally do. It's just that Daisy is now assuring you that someone's going to actually follow through for you.
Right. Well, and there's stuff that you were talking about, right? Like if you land the root, right? The everyone gets the Lee Sin, the tree syndrome. As we will know it in a bit. That she takes it, right? Like if you root it, Daisy's tackling you over the wall now and is gonna go find you. And I don't know. I think this is the cutest thing we've put in League of Legends ever. Like people were like, let's make a skin for Lux or something, and I'm like, stop. Like Daisy is a badass giant like golem that has like a little flower on her head. She waves when she despawns. Are you kidding? I don't think we have a non-depressing death animation or timeout animation, right? Even Tibbers is like, he's done. Like he's like,
I do want to say, I want to shout out to Brian. The sound that she makes when she despawns is amazing as well.
What is the sound? Can someone give me the sound?
She kind of does like a little grunting boy like kind of thing. It's fantastic.
I'm loving her too much. And also, like when I listen to the VO, oh my lord,
impression.
like just so exciting where she the theme is she's tackling you because she loves hugs. Like that's so simple and adorable, right? That he's like, all right, Daisy, go make a friend.
Be gentle, Daisy.
And he doesn't even mean it like in a weird manipulative way.
No, he
right?
doesn't.
She's like, I'm gonna go give you hugs, but I'm also a stone beast.
Right.
So like understand
Yeah.
like this could be tough for you.
If I actually real quick on the Daisy thing, when we were when Daisy got introduced was going to be a part of the kit.
Yeah.
And we were trying to figure out, okay, like what does she
When
mean
Blake brought Daisy
thematically?
home
to
meet the parents.
We all had to live with Daisy.
Yeah.
So I actually
There was an adjustment
People
period.
were hesitant.
When
They
they
were,
said
they
that,
were.
okay.
Trust me.
And a real quick aside, actually, and I know like sitting here as like concept art, it's cool, and we get to do the podcast and all that stuff. But I want to throw like a quick shout out to like the animators Luke and Warren.
Oh god.
Yes, definitely.
Danny, who I'll get back to in a second because it's the Daisy story. But Danny, our 3D artist, who also did a good job doing doing a lot of concept stuff on Ivern, and Richard on VFX, and obviously everybody else too.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
I just want to throw it to those guys because
No, for
they've
sure.
done a ton of it.
Like before we continue with my favorite thing in League of Legends, you know, we say it sometimes on this podcast. We probably never say it enough. You know, these things are really a labor of love and a product of way more people than we can fit into this room and have the time. And so while we're kind of talking to the DNA pod here, you know, there's shout outs to all the homies and all the teams that are listening to this that help make a part of this. You know, all that.
Absolutely.
But so all right, back to Daisy.
Daisy. Okay,
Back
so
to Daisy.
we were doing
back to what really matters.
Right. So we were trying to figure out. Sort of even within our own head space, our own head canon, like, okay, how does Daisy work thematically? Like, where do we need to go so she feels organic? So when he pulls her out, it's not like, yeah, he's bringing in like somebody to just smash your face and kill you. That feels aggressive. Is that right?
Right.
And it was actually Danny, our character artist, that did this like little, like really quick one morning, like did a comic of like Ivern finding Daisy, like basically like passed out in the blue buff like grove, and like she wasn't.
She's like a blue buff that was taken.
Yeah, and she's just laying there face down, like she looks like she's just been on a bender or something. And he comes over and he's like, oh, you know, like, hey, buddy, you know, got like life got you down, and basically like imbues her with his magic and saves her and brings her back. And he showed us this comic, and like the whole pod was like, we all get Daisy now. Yes, we can do this. And it was just like, but those little moments are like, you know, anyway, that was a cool moment.
There's so many things like that at this company, and I suspect in game development across the world where it's like the theming of a thing needs to be there, or else it won't make any damn sense.
Right.
Yeah.
But like once you see it, you're like, oh yeah, okay, I get it. Like even, you know, and it's controversial opinion here because I don't know that it's sold perfectly well. Like Jin's got this weird drape on his body, and he's got like a hump, and you're like, what's that? And then he uses his ult, and you're like, oh, he's the gun.
Yeah.
He puts all of it to. That's so cool, right? You're like, oh shit, I get it. Yeah, hell yeah. And I don't know, the high fiving of Daisy. Everything about that is the correct amount of whimsical nature that I feel like makes me love League of Legends deep in my heart.
Really brought the heart to that character with that little comic strip.
Yeah.
It was just, I was like, oh, this is exactly true. This is going in the bio.
Yeah. So we're kind of nearing our end here. I know Chris, you've got to go slay some people after this.
In the losers bracket of
Hey, look,
Rumble,
losers
the
bracket
Teemo
is
Cup.
still in the tournament.
We're proud.
You know?
Yeah, it's
that's
gonna be.
good.
We're
Wow,
excited.
man, good.
Yeah, we're excited.
So listen, so I'm gonna go through each of you, and I'm gonna say give me either your favorite Ivern voiceover line or your favorite Ivern like moment, if you're not as up to date on his voice. You know, just kind of be thinking about that. I'll start it off, which is I kind of have two, and I think by the way, this voice actor is one of my favorite dudes ever in games. I don't know his name. I don't even know if it's confirmed, but he's General Nazgrim in WoW, and I know that because I can hear it because it's the same damn guy, and you're not fooling anybody. But his like. His quality of doing the voice actor stuff, like his delivery is amazing. And he's got this one where he's like, oh, hey, it's the people thing. Hello? You know, he kind of forgets for a moment like what they are, but he's still trying to be really nice to them, which is the cutest damn thing ever. And then he has a whole host of lines where he talks and sheds light on all of the creatures of the rift. And there's one where he's like, you know, hey, Blue, you know, you and my friend Daisy would make a cute couple. And I'm like, he's shipping the Blue buff and Daisy?
Yeah.
Oh, my heart. I can't take it. He is just the best. All right, Blake, you got to go.
I have to say, his lines when he interacts with the jungle camps are my favorite. And my absolute favorite one of all of those is Raptor friends, looking good, guys. I love that line. It's just so like friendly, and you can see him just jovially walking by. Amazing. That's my favorite.
That's good. Man, all right. So I could point to all those animation things that we've already talked about, like the high five, probably.
Yeah.
Any of those, but I actually did it to Matt earlier. But the first time that we were testing out some things, and he cast his Q, and he like caught Annie or whatever, Annie bot, and he just did that gotcha. And I was just like, my man, because that feeling of like when somebody's like they're just at the edge of your range, and you get them, and you're just like, yeah. Gotcha.
Well, because like no one says that
Yeah.
low key. Like
Yeah.
like there's no one who uses their move in the
Yeah.
game and is like, haha, I
Yeah.
did it. You
Right,
know, like
right.
because we're you know, it's if you're like Caitlyn, you like blew their head off, right? Like
Yeah.
you know you got it.
Yeah.
There's an old lady somewhere stuck in the game code who says you killed somebody, right?
Yeah.
Like, but Ivern has given himself a high five on this.
Yeah.
All right,
Dig it.
Matt, you got to close this out here. What's your favorite line and or Ivern moment?
Oh, it has to be when he pacifies the Razorbeaks and he just is like, "Where did you Raptors get all these coins?" Like, and he's genuinely like perplexed. He's like, "How did you? What have you been? Who have you been stealing?" Like, it just puts a story in my head, and I lose it when I hear that line.
Oh my god. Yeah, okay, that's awesome.
I have to say, honorable mention goes to I've got 2 thumbs and a shield.
Yeah.
When he shields himself.
Yeah, I just honestly, you know, God bless you and everyone else who helped to make those lines because, you know, shout outs again, we're doing all shout outs today.
Yeah,
shout outs to everyone because I think it was Danny as well, but a lot of other guys who really set to, you know, Willem, Vandershive, who really set to work on like making a lot of those creatures come to life in Summoner's Rift when we were all working on the update. And to see them now like have a place and have personalities, like what is it like? Sir Grompulus Kevin Rivington of Croakshire,
Yeah.
right? Like it's like hell yeah, dude. Grom's the prince, of course he is, right? Like you just kept killing him for his buff. You didn't know about that.
Krugs is writing his novel and getting feedback from Ivern.
Yeah.
Brambleback and Ivern got up to some mischievous deeds somewhere in a jungle. And
That's where things get the most like fear and loathing. Like things are gonna get weird.
Ivern's quick 1,000-yard stare.
Yes,
And then he's back. And then he's back. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was we had a great line can come from pretty much anywhere, and people all over from like QA to narrative to other teams, other disciplines. We're tossing in lines, and the material was so good. It was so hard to pick.
All right.
So thanks, guys.
All right. Well, yeah. Shout outs to everyone who made
Shout outs
Ivern
again.
possible in every kind of way. We got to head out of here. So Blake, Chris, Matt, thank you guys for stopping by, and thanks to
Thanks
all
for
of
having
you out there for listening. I mean, you can tell how much fun it was to do the cast. It was that much fun to do Ivern, just guaranteed. So we hope you guys get out there and play him, play against him. Watch out for getting 3 buffed. That shit will happen to you. You're thinking he's real nice, but he will just smite all of your stuff away. But no, be sure to follow us on iTunes and SoundCloud and I don't know, wherever the hell y'all listen to this to. So somewhere, if you found it, share it to your friends, share it to your parents, show your grandma. I'm sure she'll love Ivern too. So okay, we're gonna head out, guys. Thanks so much, and we will see you at the release of the next champion.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Cheers.